Hi, I'm Catherine, the author of TORIANA, and I'm going to be reading the next chapter. Ruth chapter 11, 13th of June 2007. My dearest beloved Schatz, a wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones. Proverbs 12 verse 4. I'm not a king, but with my dearest Kath, I will wear a permanent crown in my life. I praise God for you. You really enrich my life wonderfully. Besides God, there is no one to whom I can open up to in the same way as you. 18th of August 2007. My dearest Kath, I dare to tell you, Kath, I love you so much in everything, even in the things I do not know yet. Thank you for your confidence and trust in me. I appreciate it highly with love and respect. May God bless my dearest Kath richly today. Yours, deep in love, Martin. I had a huge, beautifully white, thick cotton woven cloak that Martin used in our dramas when he was acting the role of Jesus. He loved this cloak and asked if he could have it to sleep in. I happily agreed to let him have it and told him that one day when we are married it would be big enough for us to share. The next day he wrote this note in our mutual diary, 23rd of September 2007. In the warm night I used the wonderfully gentle and huge cloak for covering my body, but in the morning my dearest Ruth was not found. In this diary entry, Martin is making reference to a story about Ruth from the Bible. It began as a tragic story with Ruth becoming a widow and ends with her meeting Boaz and their marriage. Every letter that Martin wrote romanced me and drew me closer to him each month. I desperately wanted to run into his arms, have him hold me, have his hands touch my hair and face, and then I prayed many a time for God to help me to wait until it was his timing that we came together as one. For a year and a half we had kept a mutual diary which we exchanged each week and wrote our deepest thoughts, passions and desires. At the back of the diary we had a page with 3 columns, one for kisses, one for hugs, and one for back massages. Each time one of us felt the desire to hug or give one another a kiss or a back massage, we would write it in our diary. In our waiting, we wanted to honor the culture in Lopit, Sudan, and Kenya, and did not want to become physically involved until after we were married. Above our human passions and desires was our love and relationship with Jesus, and our hearts were also passionate about loving and reaching out to the Lopit people in South Sudan. During 2007 to 2008, Martin felt led to visit another village about half a day's walk from our area. He went alone and found pathways to reach it. There was a man named Pastor Peter, who was trying to start a new church in the village called Ohilang. Martin felt led to support and encourage him to start a church. He faithfully went to Ohilang by foot every second weekend, and this new work was very much part of our prayers. In May, he tried to ride to Ohilang by bicycle. Our mutual diary, 18th of May 2008. My dearest Kath, I had a wonderful day with Mark riding bicycles, my first time in Sudan. We went to his home village Ohilang, past Ibachure and Ebony. I was grateful that you had peace staying behind with Sunday school and drama kids. God gave us good opportunities to reach many people. I got a taste and a desire in our future common ministry to reach the people in that way in remote villages like Ohilang. Was happy to hear your voice on the radio this evening. Yours in love, Martin. I was very excited about the growing work that Martin was pursuing in Ohilang and prayed with him that when we returned after our visit in Germany and marriage in South Africa, we could visit and begin work together in Ohilang. I had a longing desire to meet these people, but knew I could not go alone with Martin by foot or on bicycle, as it would be seen as a scandal within the community for an unmarried man and woman walking off into the bush alone. But I prayed that God would one day give me opportunity to see the new work Martin had spent a year or 2 working on. He had spent a lot of time and energy building relationships and helping establish a church there. 2 other missionary men from Martin's mission, Diguna, Die Goede Nachricht for Africa, that means the good news for Africa, were serving with us in Lopit Mountains in the last months of 2008. They were Jürgen and Toby. It was really a joy for Martin to have them staying with him in our last months in Sudan before flying to Germany. We decided together we would like to visit Ohilang with Martin. I was thrilled, and it was such a joy to finally meet Pastor Peter, his wife and family, and the small growing church. We also did a tour around the village and met other people there too. All the children were very friendly towards Martin, but some of them had never seen a white woman before, and after seeing me, one or two of them screamed and ran away. It took a while for the children to come close to me, and when they did, they would run towards me, touch my arm, and then quickly run away. I thought that I must look like a white ghost to them. After our time together in Ohilang, we then spent some time preparing for a long journey from Sudan to Germany. I was so excited that the time would soon come when I could hold hands freely, embrace one another, and kiss. About once every 4 months, Martin would write a newsletter to his family and friends in Germany. He was a very good farmer, but struggled with typing on a computer. I became his faithful secretary who typed his newsletters and emailed them for him. He told me many a time how grateful he was that I could help him in this way. The newsletters Martin had written in the past were very small print. He wrote as small as he could so he could put as much as he could on one page. I heard from many people that they had to enlarge his newsletters on a photocopy machine so they could read them. He had served with Taguna in Kenya for 3 years before coming to Sudan, and in Kenya it was still possible for him to post his newsletters. But now in Sudan there was not a possibility at all to post them, and he had to rely on me to email them for him. Some people missed Martin's personal touch in his handwritten letters, but others were happy that they could finally read his newsletters without having to enlarge the writing. In one of his newsletters, Martin had tried to prepare his family and friends in Germany before our coming about our relationship, which he had asked me to type and email. 17th of May 2008. My dearest beloved Kath, I was so grateful that you had made so many efforts for designing and typing my German info letter in which I announced our friendship to our friends, church and prayer partners in the pattern of a riddle. You sacrificed a lot of time and creative power. I love you so much and appreciate your extra mile. Thus you've got a kiss on our list in our diary. Thankfully, I did not have to wait much longer to claim that kiss, as we planned to personally meet my family and friends and prayer supporters during the month of August in South Africa 2008. You would think that after a year of waiting, the moment we stepped off the plane in South Africa, we could have embraced and kissed right there at the airport. We had become so used to being together without holding hands, embracing or kissing that it felt perfectly normal not to. But we were also feeling overwhelmed by the Western South African culture. I can remember us both coming out of cloakrooms, the bathrooms, shocked that there were no taps for us to wash our hands. Martin said he had spent a long time looking for the tap to wash his hands and decided to wait until we got home. Thankfully, then was another lady in the ladies' cloakroom, and I saw her wave her hands underneath the outlet of the pipe and then saw water come out, as a laser had read her hand movements. I explained this to Martin, and we realized that we had become used to simple life in Sudan and that it would take time to adjust to all the new things in the Western world. We had been in South Africa a week, and I had really enjoyed walking with Martin in our parks, hand in hand. I was thankful to God we had waited, because each time I felt his big gentle hand hold my small delicate hand, it was special and unique, and I prayed a small prayer of thanks for the love we had. I will never forget the 9th of August as we had walked along through the Bordeaux Park and decided to talk about what kissing meant to each of us. We had become so used to writing letters and talking about everything before we did anything that it seemed natural to talk about this too. Then Martin turned and pulled me towards himself, his hands gently taking the hair of my face, looking deeply into my eyes, his arms now enveloping me, our hearts both racing, and as I closed my eyes, I felt his lips touching mine. We spent 2 months, August and September 2008, in South Africa, giving reports about our work in Sudan, and Martin spent time getting to know my family and friends. We then returned to Sudan to continue our mission work until Christmas time. Just before Christmas, 20th December 2008, we planned to leave Sudan and fly to Germany so that I could meet Martin's family and friends. My time for daydreaming about the past was over, and I had to get back to packing. Looking forward, I had butterflies in my stomach the whole time as I contemplated what it would be like to meet Martin's friends and family, and I couldn't speak a word of German, so I was nervous about this aspect of our journey too. I can clearly remember Martin bringing me a freshly picked bouquet of flowers when we arrived in Kenya after our 3 days' journey by road from Sudan. He always liked to pray that God would help him find the most beautiful flowers he could present to me. I received them with much joy, and then Martin told me I would not be getting flowers for a long while. He explained that through winter in Germany it was too cold for flowers, and he refused to spend any money on flowers from a flower shop. When we eventually arrived in Germany, Martin's church friends, Thomas and Susanna, met us at the airport. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Susanna spoke good English, and they really made me feel welcome. I also so enjoyed meeting the rest of Martin's church family and friends, and wherever we went, I felt totally loved and accepted. After meeting some of Martin's friends, we made the long train trip to Nuremberg to meet his parents. It was an incredible time, and even though we could not communicate well, there was a growing love between us. It was also exciting to meet his sister Claudia and her daughter Helena. They all made me feel special and part of the family. What I particularly enjoyed seeing were the slideshows of Martin from when he was a baby, their family holidays in the mountains, and learning more about how Martin grew up. After about 2 weeks spent with Martin's family, on the 6th of January 2009, Martin took me on a surprise cross-country skiing adventure. This was my first time to ski, so Martin and his parents decided that I should use what they called ski walking skis, with special skis where you can lift your heel. Below is what I wrote to my families and friends at the time. Martin led me on skis for the first time through beautiful white snow. It was a cold 6th of January day, -7 degrees. We went through wonderful white fern tree cathedrals and then climbed to Signal Rock. Long ago, Signalstein was the watching point for the surrounding castles. If any enemies were spotted, the man on the watch would light a large fire on the Signalstein to alert the watchmen and the castles. It was this Signalstein that Martin, with emotion in his eyes, asked me to be his wife. My response was that I would love to be his wife. We embraced with a kiss that warmed our icy lips. Later, Martin presented me with a beautiful engagement ring. We planned to have a small wedding on the 5th of April 2009 with close friends and family at Carmel in Georgia. So we had great plans and spent the next days and weeks preparing wedding invitations, finalizing our wedding plans. I was due to fly back to South Africa on the 20th of February to prepare myself, my wedding dress and other details, and then Martin would join me a month later. During our time of travels, seeing friends and family in Germany, Martin was not feeling well. At first, we thought it could be malaria or tropical disease that he had picked up in Sudan, and we had been to many different doctors who all conducted various tests in an attempt to diagnose what exactly was wrong with Martin. In this time, I also noticed and found it strange that Martin did not want to be affectionate with me as we had been in South Africa. I thought perhaps it was the German culture to not be so affectionate in public, or perhaps Martin did not want to fall into temptation or sin before we were married. I liked to be shown love through physical touch, whereas Martin enjoyed quality time. So for him it was not so difficult not to receive love through touch. At least that's what I thought. What I did not realize was that Martin was struggling with something that he did not know how to share with me. He had told me that he did not know how to share with me. He had told me about a strange bulge forming above his private parts, and we had thought that it might be a hernia. What was also happening is that there seems to be more estrogen forming in his body, which meant that the hormonal function of his body as a man was no longer there. This is what he was afraid to tell me. During his medical checkups, they realized that he needed a hernia operation and suggested to us that we have the operation before marriage and not after. So we planned for him to have an operation on the 10th of February. I was with him in the hospital, and the doctors told him that it would be a quick routine procedure, lasting approximately 30 minutes. After he was taken into the operation theatre, I waited and I waited and I waited, and inside of me, I knew that something was wrong. but I did not know what it was. After a wait of over 3 hours, Martin was finally wheeled out of the theatre, attached to a number of different drips and machines, some of which were apparently for pain management. He looked like he was in so much pain, and I could not help him. I stayed with him, held his hand, and prayed. He could only speak German to me at the time, and I tried my best to understand him. I made different cards for him with German scriptures and posted them around his bed. I tried to ask the nurses and doctors what was going on, but I could not speak German, and they could not speak enough English to explain. They kept taking him for tests and then a CT scan, and this all took time. A few days later, we received the news that they had found cancer in Martin's body. They found cancer in his brain, in his lungs and stomach. They told us there was no hope, and they were not sure how much longer he had to live. We held each other's hands tightly in disbelief. In front of the doctor, I told Martin that I loved him, and I still wanted to marry him until death parted us. After the doctor left the room, Martin looked at me and said, "Kath, I don't want to marry you anymore." I held his hands with tears in my eyes, and I asked him why. He said he did not want to make me a widow. I told him we had started a love story together and that I wanted to finish it with him. Then, with embarrassment and pain, he looked at me and said, "Kath, I cannot offer you sex." In that moment, I came to him and held him and said, "Mein Schatz, I want to marry you because I love you and not because of sex." Then a pastor named David came in and felt led by the Holy Spirit to come and visit Martin, even though he did not know him. He took both our hands and focused on Martin, speaking scriptures of hope and love, and I saw joy returning to Martin. Once he left, Martin called his mother to tell her the news. Martin felt telling his mother the news terribly hard and wept afterwards on his pillow. As I held him and I asked him what he was feeling, he said that he didn't want to cause pain to the people he loved. In the midst of this hard time, we also knew that I would have to leave Germany because my visa was expiring. Martin's dad phoned me and begged me to stay, but I had no choice but to return to South Africa and trust God to provide. I knew when I arrived in South Africa I would have to phone the church and all the places we had booked to cancel our wedding plans in South Africa. As Martin was not allowed to fly, as flying in his current condition was out of the question. The night before I left Germany, it was late and I was tired. Martin took my hand and drew me to himself, gently stroked my face and hair, enveloped his arms around me, and passionately kissed me. With tears in my eyes, I asked him why he had not kissed me like this before in Germany, and he said that he didn't think I would want to marry a sick man. But now he saw the truth, and that I truly loved him for who he was, no matter how sick he became. He also said that he was not sure if we would see each other again, and without any more words, we continued to embrace and kiss each other, and I wished that the time would never pass. Leaving Martin in Germany was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I placed all my tears and prayers in God's hands as I trusted him that he would help me to return and see Martin again. When the officials at the German embassy in South Africa heard my story, they too became emotional, and somehow God moved their hearts together with the embassy in Germany, and they made an exceptional visa for me, an exception, and it was exceptional too. In addition to that, I discovered that in Germany, people who wanted to get married had to get legally married in court first, before marrying in a church. This meant that if I wanted to marry Martin, I would have to supply 7 different documents from different South African government departments. Normally, this could take up to 3 months. Katja, a friend from Laguna base in Germany at the time, worked very hard and with the embassy and the court to help me from the German side with all the papers. I will always be grateful for her and her help at that time. God is a God of wonders, and in just 10 days I had my visa to return and all the documents required for marriage in Germany. I couldn't wait to return and was also aware that many people all over the world were praying for us both. I was also grateful for my many newfound friends in Laguna, Germany, like Corinna and Uta and Joe and Anna Hummel, and our friends from the Altenkirchen Church, Thomas and Susanna, and many others who walked this road with us. The dressmaker had finished my wedding dress to take with me, and I had my plane ticket and was so excited to return to Germany. When I arrived at the airport, it was just wonderful to be met by Martin and a bunch of flowers bought from a flower shop, and Corinna from Daguna. We embraced with joy. Martin then took my hand, and I felt things were different. He was so proud to walk in public hand in hand with me. When I arrived, I found a beautiful card, which must have taken hours for him to write, and then he told me to dress up for the evening, as he was taking me out to a Chinese restaurant for dinner. After the dinner, Martin asked me how I was feeling, and I told him that I was more in love with him than ever before. We then embraced for a long time, and thanked God that he had allowed us to be together again, that he had moved mountains for us so that we could continue our love story together until God decided to heal him or take him home.